The Salesforce Business Analyst certification is one of the most anticipated ones and is causing a lot of excitement. The Salesforce Business Analyst credential is designed for Salesforce administrators who understand business needs, capture requirements, and collaborate with stakeholders to develop Salesforce solutions that drive business improvements. I would recommend visiting the website of International Institute of Business Analysts. Their website is iiba.org. IIBA defines business analysis as the practice of enabling change in an organizational context by defining needs and recommending solutions that deliver value to stakeholders. The business analyst is an agent of change. Business analysis is used to identify and articulate the need for change in how organizations work and to facilitate that change. So business analysts would be asking the questions why and how a lot. Why in order to bring out the value that can be delivered from the change, and how in order to discover what changes are required and what improvements can be brought about in the existing systems and processes. Business analysts identify and define the solutions that will maximize the value delivered by an organization to its stakeholders. Business analysts work across all levels of an organization and may be involved in everything from defining strategy to creating the enterprise architecture to taking a leadership role by defining the goals and requirements for programs and projects or supporting continuous improvement in technology and processes. The value of business analysis is in realization of benefits, avoidance of cost, identification of new opportunities, understanding of required capabilities, and modeling the organization. Through the effective use of business analysis, we can ensure an organization realizes these benefits, ultimately improving the way they do business. The prerequisite for the Salesforce Business Analyst certification is the Salesforce Administrator certification. A Salesforce Certified Business Analyst drives business improvements and collaborates with stakeholders to understand the business needs and value in the context of the customer environment. The candidate should have experience working in a particular industry or domain and supporting the business with the Salesforce platform. A successful candidate would have experience with common business practices such as eliciting requirements, mapping business processes, writing user stories, validating solutions, user acceptance testing, and facilitating virtual and in-person workshops. They would be able to apply Salesforce Business Analysis best practices, guide collaboration between stakeholders, business stakeholders, and act as a liaison between the business and development teams, and understand the implications of various software development lifecycle methodologies. A Salesforce Certified Business Analyst would typically have 2 years of business analyst experience and 2 years of Salesforce Platform experience. In terms of the knowledge that a Salesforce Certified Business Analyst would bring to the table, they would be familiar with the Salesforce implementation lifecycle, understand the Salesforce environment best practices, and have experience in that particular industry or domain. In terms of skills, the business analyst would be able to plan the discovery activities based on the key stakeholders and the levels at which he is engaging. The business analyst would be able to map the business processes, elicit requirements, and write user stories. They would also demonstrate effective written and verbal communication skills when working with the business and technical stakeholders at all levels of the organization and apply strong analytical and problem-solving skills. In terms of the soft skills or abilities of a business analyst would be able to move easily between a wide variety of influencing and communication styles to engage effectively with diverse audiences and maximize the impact of the work that they perform. A business analyst would typically become a trusted advisor with the key stakeholders, and they should be able to break down the complex business processes into manageable steps. This is where concepts like project framing and project scoping come into play. A Salesforce business analyst would also be able to evaluate and recommend the Salesforce features as part of the solution design. Now, there may be some activities a business analyst needs assistance with and may not be a master of. Some examples of this are negotiating stakeholder conflict. This is more of a scrum master or a project manager role, and the business analyst may need their support in performing this activity. For designing and implementing the business solutions, a business analyst would need support from an architect role. In terms of setting the business priorities, the business analyst would need support from the key business stakeholders or the product owners or the business owners. If the business analyst is also playing the product owner role in a project, they would be able to set the priorities for the user stories, but they would still need support from management in setting the business priorities right. Signing off on user acceptance testing is another area where a business analyst would rely on the QA team in terms of adoption and enablement as well. Business analysts may rely on the Scrum Master or the development team to perform those activities. A Salesforce business analyst would also not be expected to know or perform activities like change management, managing the project, building return on investment, developing custom code, designing technical solutions, or performing ongoing administration of the tools or product ownership. The Salesforce business analyst is also not supposed to be involved in legal or compliance issues. So since the exam guide considers these topics as out of scope for the business analyst role, you can safely assume that you would not be tested on these areas in the exam. Let's look at the typical job roles of a Salesforce Certified Business Analyst. It is not necessary to have the words business analyst or Salesforce business analyst in your job title. A Salesforce certified business analyst can do any of the roles like consultant, business system analyst. He may be a product owner or a platform manager. The Salesforce business analyst can also be a CRM manager or a business process specialist, a business operations manager, or a Salesforce administrator. So there are many roles which a Salesforce certified business analyst can play. Now let's get to know a little bit more about the Salesforce Certified Business Analyst exam. The exam registration and the delivery will be available from the 11th of July 2022, and you can start preparing right now with the Business Analyst Certification Exam Guide on Trailhead. The exam will consist of 60 multiple choice, multiple select questions. The time allotted is 105 minutes, and this time allows for the unscored questions as well. The passing score is 62%, which means you need to get 38 out of 60 questions right. The registration fee is $200 and the retake fee would be $100. At this time, there are no promotions directly related to the Salesforce Certified Business Analyst exam, but be sure to keep an eye out in the Trailblazer community. I'm hoping there will be promotions available for the newly introduced Business Analyst exam. And the prerequisite for the Salesforce Business Analyst is that you should already be holding a Salesforce Certified Administrator certificate. As per the exam guide released by Salesforce, the weightage of topics in the exam goes something like this. Customer discovery is 17%. Customer discovery is where the business analyst would determine the business strategies, goals, initiatives, and challenges to define the scope of business analysis. 24%, which is the highest weightage in this exam, is reserved for collaboration with stakeholders. This is where the business analyst would plan the discovery activities based on the target stakeholders to perform a thorough analysis of business needs. Business process mapping is 16% of the weightage, and this is where the business analyst demonstrates how to define the scope of a complex business process and break it down into manageable steps. Requirements holds 17%, and here you would be required to distinguish between requirements versus user stories to engage the business and technical stakeholders. User stories is another 18%, and this is where you are expected to understand the components of a user story to perform a thorough analysis. 8% is for the topic user acceptance, and here the business analyst is expected to define and prepare the user acceptance test plan to confirm the solution meets the business requirements. I'll quickly run through the details of some of those topics. If you look at the knowledge areas within the topic customer discovery, some of the points relate to the skills of a business analyst in terms of determining the business strategy, goals, initiatives, etc. Understanding and explaining the business analyst's role and responsibilities, applying the implementation lifecycle and planning the business analyst's activities. These points are role related knowledge areas. And then there are 3 bullets which are relating to Salesforce product knowledge. So how a customer is leveraging and benefiting from Salesforce products. Analyze the customer's Salesforce environment to identify opportunities and constraints and demonstrate knowledge of Salesforce capabilities and its potential to recommend the solutions to the business. So there's a mix of business analyst role and Salesforce knowledge that is required under this topic. Collaboration with stakeholders. Here again, if you see, Salesforce appears only in one of the bullet points, where you would be expected to understand how Salesforce features and best practices impact the solution options. The rest of the points are actually business analyst skill, role, and abilities. So plan the discovery activities, identify the key stakeholders, develop relationships, and explain how to move from current state to an agreed future state design, which involves some elements of enterprise architecture. And two of these bullet points start with given a scenario, which could possibly mean a case study in the question, and you're expected to choose the most effective techniques for eliciting the business needs, and given a scenario, manage competing priorities to obtain the sign-off from stakeholders. Business process mapping does not have any reference to Salesforce knowledge. This is pure business analyst role knowledge. And here you would demonstrate knowledge of business analyst roles and skills in performing these activities, like defining the scope of complex business process, understand hierarchical process, engage stakeholders at different levels, visualize future state, and apply governance. So a mix of business analyst, enterprise architecture, and governance role knowledge. Under the requirements topic, you would need to distinguish between requirements and user stories in order to engage business users with requirements and technical stakeholders with user stories. Verify and prioritize existing requirements and identify new requirements to develop the future state, and document the requirements in a version control repository. An almost equal weightage is given to user stories, where you would understand the components of a user story to perform a thorough analysis of the requirements. Contrast the difference between acceptance criteria and definition of done, and document the user stories again in a version control repository to manage scope. User acceptance has only 8% weightage, and the business analyst would be expected to demonstrate knowledge on defining and preparing the user acceptance test plans and to confirm that the solution meets the business requirement. Given a scenario, again implies a case study where you would be expected to confirm whether you would make a go no go release decision when a new business issue or a technical issue arises. The business analyst exam preparation trail mix covers each of these topics in detail. The trails are categorized as per the topic. So for every topic, you've got modules that are associated with that particular topic and would help you to prepare for the same. There are no practice exams on Trailhead so far as I can see. As of now, there is only the exam guide and the prepare for your Salesforce Business Analyst Credential Trail Mix. These are the two resources that are available. What we have seen in the details of the topics is that given a scenario is mentioned a few times. This is where you would be given a particular case study and then make a decision based on the facts that have been presented to you. And Salesforce is mentioned very sparsely, only in a few of those topics, which means while there's an expectation of basic Salesforce knowledge, as the prerequisite itself is the Salesforce Administrator certification. But in this exam, it looks very focused on the business analyst role and the knowledge around that business analyst domain. I hope this has been useful for you as you prepare for your business analyst exam, and that you are encouraged to register on or after the 11th of July for this new exam that Salesforce has just released. Best of luck.